Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Colt and Larissa. Let's get to the show. By the way, I like to pronounce it Larissa because that's how she pronounces it, which seems more respectful to her. Let's watch the show. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and I'm also a professor. Whenever I watch the show, I always have things to say. Let's get to the show.
So you want me to move the slot machine now? Is that what you're saying?
I don't want you to move the slot machine, but it's not a big deal.
It is to me. I try to get along with her, but when Larissa moves my things, it really upsets me because I think she wants to prove this is her place and I don't matter at all. And now Colt also wants to move my stuff. Well, that's ridiculous. Look, I don't have a lot of stuff down there. I don't bitch about too much of it, but she pushes and pushes.
So this is an argument about moving a slot machine on its surface. But underneath it all is a lot of hurt and a lot of fears for everyone involved. For Debbie, she feels like she's being pushed aside. She feels like her love for her husband, I think, is being discounted because that slot machine was a symbol of her deceased husband, right? For Larissa, she feels as though she's being disrespected by her husband and that her husband is picking mom over her and that Larissa doesn't have any kind of voice and that she doesn't matter. And Colt feels like he doesn't matter as well, I'm guessing. I guess if there's a theme that could be identified is no one is saying their vulnerability and everyone is feeling as though their feelings don't matter. But they're not necessarily in contact with their real feelings, but at the very least they're not expressing them. If the mom said something like, look, I get it. You're married now and you don't want me to be central to Colt's life. And that's fine with me. But this, while I'm in this house, if there's one thing that I need to stay there, it is this slot machine because no one is talking about my deceased husband. And I need that to stay there because every day I think about him. And when I see that slot machine, it reminds me of him. It's just a little bit of connection I have to my husband, and I need that. And if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would do with my life. That's not what Debbie's saying. What Debbie is saying is that, B word of a daughter-in-law is just trying to disrespect me, and she doesn't care about me, and she's a mean person, and all that kind of stuff. And so, if as a family therapist, what I'd be trying to do is trying to get to what the primary feelings are, why those primary feelings are happening, validating those, get other people to validate those. Because often what happens, not all the time, is if Debbie were to be understood by Larissa and Colt about her feelings, then she wouldn't she wouldn't care where the slot machine went. That's what happens a lot. We end up digging in and becoming stubborn about stuff, particularly about unreasonable things, because we feel like it's our last stand. We feel like we're being invaded from every different direction, and we feel like, I'm not going to let go of this. I'm not going to let them overpower this. I'm not going to let them erase this. But they didn't know they were erasing anything because you didn't tell them. They didn't know they were invading anything because you didn't tell them how you were feeling. If Debbie made it known about her vulnerability and her sadness, about grief in general, I'm guessing it has nothing to do with the slot machine and has everything to do with the mom's just general feeling of being discounted, maybe by many people in the world. And if she were able to do that, not necessarily with just Colt, but with other people, with a therapist, with people at church, with her friends, with other family members, and she were to get that support, I'm guessing that one, she wouldn't care that much about the slot machine because she would feel like everyone understood and gave her a place to feel her grief about her deceased husband or her husband who died. And she would feel connected to people, so she wouldn't have to hold on to those kinds of things. She'd have options. I think the mom, again, this is total speculation based on what they're showing us, is way before the show ever began, way before she even had Colt as a child, she has been feeling discounted, and she doesn't give people the opportunity to understand that, and so she digs in on things. So it makes me sad for her. It makes me sad for all three of them, honestly. I feel a lot of sadness when I watch the three of them, honestly. There's a lot of awkwardness that I think is a result of pain. There's a lot of insulting each other that's a result of pain. There's a lot of pain because of a result of pain. And it's honestly hard for me to watch. One, as a human being, just caring about the three of them. But two, as a family therapist, it's just like, ugh, if I could just help them communicate. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
I love you both dearly. I wish that we could cooperate and find harmony.
I try to stay out of her way as much as possible.
That's the problem, staying out of the way. She does her thing, you do your thing.
Yeah,
and
that's the way it should be.
Collide like asteroids.
Everything goes so smooth for a while, and all of a sudden she just goes wacko-jacko on everybody. Larissa wants me to move out, and that's why she gets rid of my things. If there's nothing of mine here, then it's her place.
I am sorry for all this.
Yeah, I think that's actually accurate. I think when they are arguing about the slot machine and other things, what they're really arguing about is whether Debbie's going to live there. Now, they could get rid of the slot machine, and Debbie will still live there, right? But because the three of them haven't made a decision about how to move forward, and they talked about it last season where Debbie was going to move out. That was the plan. Debbie said, yeah, you know what? I'm not excited about moving out, but it makes sense that I would move out and find my own place. Everyone agreed on that. But because the three of them, because there's anxiety about the conversation, it has come to a standstill. And everyone is now mounting tension and undifferentiation, and that is causing what we're seeing. Now, what would that look like? Well, as the therapist said, Colt has to be the ringleader because he's the one connected to Mom, he's the one connected to Larissa. To ask the two of them to work this out is asking too much. Colt needs to be the ringleader. He needs to be like, okay, here's the plan, Mom, here's what we're doing. Here now, maybe for Colt, he's like, Larissa, I'm sorry. I know I said Mom was going to move out before you came up, but I've changed my mind. I can't have her move out. I just need her so much. Okay. You could pathologize that. You could not. That's not the point. The point is that it doesn't necessarily matter what the choice is, but there needs to be a plan, and it needs to be explicit. It needs to be talked about. There needs to be negotiations. There need to be feelings. As a therapist, that was always my job, was not necessarily to say, Colt, you need to do X or Y. It was, Colt, you need to figure out what you want. You need to think about like what you want to do, given what your mom wants, what Larissa wants. Now it's up to you to decide what's going to happen. Either Debbie is pleased or Larissa is pleased. You can't please both of them. So you got to make a choice. And making no choice is making a choice. And let's talk about what's preventing you from making that choice. Is it anxiety, as Larissa identifies? I think it is. I don't think we need to call them names, but I think that is true. So that anxiety is causing you inertia to do nothing, which is doing something, which is aggravating everybody. So let's wrestle with that anxiety. Let's be differentiated. Let's differentiate. You always hear me talk about differentiation. So we would help Colt to differentiate between his knee-jerk reaction of fear, of like, well, I just don't know what to do. Larissa wants her to move out. I kind of want her to move out, but I'm worried about my mom, so I don't know what to do. So you're stuck in that place. Okay, it's fine. Those emotions are good. Do we want to operate from those emotions? Let's think about it. Let's go to our intellect and our reasoning ability beyond emotion and think, and let's reflect on our emotion. Let's look at them and see what we need to do. Well, if I go with the anxiety all the time, I end up doing nothing. That's what I've been doing for like a year now, it seems. And what's the outcome of that? Well, the outcome is everyone gets upset and everything's falling apart and no one's happy. All right, so that's you reflecting on your feelings. That's the outcome of you going with your feelings. Now let's go with your thoughts. What's your goal? What do you want the future to look like? I'm guessing what Colt would say was, well, if I'm going to move forward with my life, with my wife, and I'm guessing my stepkids, I'm guessing the kids are going to come up, Debbie has to move out. Now, I'd like her to live close by, and I'll go by and visit her, And maybe she'll take care of the kids sometimes when me and Larissa want to have date night or something. I don't know. But she's got to move out, and my mom doesn't have a job. So we're going to have to figure that out. We're going to have to get a budget and figure out all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Okay, how does that feel? Well, I'm terrified because I'm going to my feelings right now, and I'm worried about my mom's feelings. All right, let's make a plan to deal with those mom's feelings, because you don't just have to throw her away and make her move out. You could say, Mom, I need you to go to therapy. I need you to move out. I need you to go to therapy. I need you to get more friends, and I'm going to help you with that. And when you move out, I'm going to see you every day or call you every day. I'll stay in contact. So I'm not just throwing you away, but we're both going to have to adjust, because this is going to be a weird one, because we've lived together for 30-something years. But we're going to have to do this because it's what I want. I'm not doing it because Larissa wants to do it. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I want to move on with my life. And frankly, I want you to have a life outside of me. And so I'm going to help you with that. But I need you to step up too. So, that's the ability to not be flooded by your emotions all the time, and the ability to look at your emotions and say, yeah, my emotions are telling me some good things, that my mom is at risk and that I care about my mom. But I shouldn't be ruled by my emotions completely. Emotions, we put them in quotations because you can't think about your intellect without emotions being there, because we don't really have an intellectual side. It's just a different side of our emotional side. But anyway, there's a whole debate about that. Anyway, the point is that if I let my fear run the day, then look what happens. But if I reflect on that and say, okay, what do I let my fear motivate me to do? To care for my mom, to be nice to her, to help her transition. That's what my fear is, alerting me to do. But I also need to move past my fear, because everything's going to fall apart otherwise. That's what differentiation is, the ability to back and forth, feeling, thinking, feeling, goal setting, feeling, reflecting on feelings, and what do I want those feelings to do for me? What do I want those feelings not to do for me? Now, this is a hard thing to do. And sometimes you need a therapist to help you with that. And if you're looking for a therapist to help you with that particularly, you can look for a cognitive therapist, a acceptance commitment therapist maybe, a narrative therapist maybe, or a Bowenian family therapist maybe. Those are the kinds of things you might want to look for. Anyway, let's go back to the show. Hey, deserving listeners, as you know, I'm constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. One of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp.com. So if you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to BetterHelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the /Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it helps us out. I get a lot of emails from you saying that you're looking for a therapist. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, but I know it can be really hard to find a good one to work with. Like I said, one of the options available to try is BetterHelp.com/Kirk. And you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide, which is amazing. I've been told that you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message with your counselor anytime. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. And I've been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy. So go to BetterHelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month of therapy today.
You guys don't want me here.
My mother and I have lived together for my entire life. So if my mother moved out, I'd be very sad and guilty. Plus, I don't want my mother to be alone. I think we can live together. We're 3 people, adults.
2 of us are.
I just want everyone to be happy, honestly.
It's not going to ever happen.
This is a great conversation. And if I were there, I'd be like, okay, you're expressing your feelings. You feel hopeless. Let's keep going. Let's not just let the hopelessness be the end of the conversation. That's how it feels. I hear that. Tell me more. How more helpless does it feel? Let's talk about it. And then at some point, you have to say, okay, then what? Those are your feelings. It's hopeless. It's terrible. It's never going to work. Okay, that's how it feels. And I want to honor that. And that's real. And that's not irrational. It's fine. Now let's put our feelings aside for a second and let's think about what we need to do here for everyone's sake. What's the path forward? What do we need to do? And I keep coming back to Debbie needs to have a life. Not to insult her, of just like, she needs to get a life. Of literally, she needs to have other people in her life. She can't just have Colt. Everyone needs a variety of people in their life. You cannot just have one person in your life, particularly in this situation, right? So you need options. You need the various people that you can have attachments with, and various people that you can talk to, various people that you can have fun with, various people that you can get gratification with. Maybe she could even date. I don't know. And I just wonder about the traumas that she's been through that make her feel like Colt is her only option. It just makes me feel really bad for her.
I don't think Colt realizes how much I do want to move out, especially when Larissa pushes me. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm too old. I can't do this. It's just not worth it.
So, as I've been saying, a big part of family therapy is understanding transitions in families, because all families go through transitions. Even when your preschool age kid goes to school, that's a transition for a whole family. When your primary school kid becomes a teenager, that's a transition for everybody. When all the kids move out, when you have kids, when there's all these transitions. And for this family, they're going through a transition where before Larissa, it was mom and Colt. And then there was the dating portion of the phase where Colt, it was dating Larissa. I have cat hair on my face, or dog hair, puppy hair. Our new puppy has hair that's, it doesn't look long, but it's deceptively long, and it gets in my nose and my face because I'm always putting that puppy in my face. The puppy likes to actually sleep right here. It's pretty cute. Anyway, so the issue is that they are going through another transition, and everyone agreed a year ago that Debbie was going to move out and we're going to go through a new transition, and wouldn't have been nice if they could have navigated that without everyone hating each other. But they didn't. Why? Because of lack of differentiation. If all of them, particularly Colt, could have seen the forest through the trees and said, oh my God, I'm so scared, but my fear is going to ruin the situation. My fear is going to make this so that everyone hates each other, including Larissa hating me. So I need to be goal-oriented in this moment and think, okay, what's best? Well, we got to get Debbie out ASAP, because Larissa is mounting her upsettedness because she's being hurt, because she doesn't feel like I'm listening to her. And frankly, I want Debbie to move out too. Larissa is slowly losing respect for me because she thinks that I'm being not a man by allowing Debbie to overpower me. At least that's her narrative. Larissa thinks that I don't care about, all these bad things are happening because I'm allowing my fear to affect my day-to-day decision-making. Okay, so we need to transition here now so that it can be a nice thing. So it can be I think the last time we kind of checked in with this family last season, they were doing pretty good. And if Debbie had moved out then, imagine how things would have felt. Everyone would have liked each other. There wouldn't have been those kind of resentments that were kind of building up, but have clearly built up since the last season. And that would have been so much more differentiated and better for everyone. And so this is what happens in families. In fact, Bowenian family therapy, which is the theory that has differentiation in it, a big focus was these transition points. And Murray Bowen himself would ask families, so when you made this transition, how did you manage that? That was something that he would ask a lot. In fact, he would take notes. He would do a genogram, which is a family tree, and then on the side he would write out these different transitions. What did you do when you bonded as a couple? How long was that? How did that work? Did you fight a lot? Did you bond? When you had your first child, that's a transition. What did you do there? How did you manage that? Did you manage the negotiation of divvying up the parenting responsibilities well? Did you fight a lot about parenting? Did one person just decide, I'm going to be the parent and you'll be the secondary parent? How did you manage that? Were there resentments as a result of that transition? Because that tells Bowen and Bowenian therapists how differentiated that family was. Were they able to see the forest through the trees, or did they let their anxiety and their fears run the day such that a lot of resentments built up because of it? And we're seeing a prime example of it here.
I give up.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others, because we all deserve it. We really, really do.